So today I'm going to look at the birth chart of Donald Trump. He's the President of the United States. Obviously, a very polarizing figure. At this point, I'm pretty confident most people know who he is. Um, yeah, it's interesting. Most people, at least from my perspective, seem to be incapable of actually viewing him as he actually is, and most people either think he's the savior that has come to, uh, you know, bring the U.S. back to some kind of golden age, or he's, Hitler incarnate or something, um, some evil tyrant hell bent on destroying the country. That's kind of how people see him. Not much of actual nuance between the good and the bad. Because he's kind of neither of those things. And I personally tend to think of him as an agent of chaos. Um, if we looked at the US and where it's at in a cyclical perspective, that is astrological, it's in a period of change. It's in a period where a bunch of major cycles are kind of ending and beginning. And when you get large, long cycles all ending and beginning at the same time, you have a transition period where things change and things kind of are messy for a while. And it takes catalysts to upend the old so that the new can be planted and put in place. And so, at least to me, I think Trump really embodies a lot of that kind of upending, chaotic energy, for better or for worse. Who knows whether the beginnings of what is to come are going to be good or bad? That's A, subjective, but B, for now, we can't know that. So, but what we can do is look at his chart and kind of see who he is, what he's about, why he is the way that he is, and kind of get an idea of why I think he's more of an agent of chaos than and change necessarily than a savior or a devil. So, who is he? Well, he's Leo rising. All right, very obvious if you watch him. He's got Mars on the ascendant. So what does that mean? It means he's going to be a Leo, which wants to be seen, and he's going to do it in a very aggressive and kind of masculine kind of way, which makes sense. You watch him; he's quite aggressive, and he's willing to say and do things that really kind of get under people's gears. Mars and Leo really wants people to see what it's doing because Mars is the planet of action. And so, if we notice Trump, he's very big on, hey, watch how I'm doing this. He goes to the golf course and look at this golf shot I took. Look at that. Look at that. Right? Oh, I went and talked to Putin. All these things, he really wants people to see what he's doing, not so much the results. A lot of the time, he just wants people to see him in action. I am working for the greater good, right? That's what he wants people to see. Now, the sun rules Leo. So where is this? Because Leo is a sign of the king in a lot of ways. It's about centralization. It's the center, the top, and so we want to see where the sun is to get an idea of, okay, who is this person beholden to, right? Is it a king that's ruled by the people? Is it a king ruled by other foreign lands, right? A lot of stuff came out in the 2016 election about Trump being, a Putin stooge and all that kind of stuff. Um, so is he tied to that astrologically? Well, no. His sun's up here in the 11th. The sun is in the 11th house. It's conjunct the North Node, kind of loosely, large orb conjunct Uranus, and it's opposite the moon, right? He's born on an eclipse. And with the sun in the 11th house represents our hopes, our dreams, our goals, our aspirations. It's the things we kind of get as a result of our public life, but also it's our friends and our community and our followers and the people around us, right? Our community at large. So who is Trump tied to? He's tied to the people. He's a populist, right? And it's the sun of Gemini, which is very uh, unstable, right? The Gemini has Taurus, the sign of stability, in the 12th house, the house of hidden things. So Gemini naturally is very unstable, doesn't quite have that sense of stability that other signs do. And so it's very kind of all over the place. It's here, it's there, it's like a hummingbird floating around and chaotic. And Trump really embodies that chaos, a little bit of the Gemini side. It's quick-witted. Trump is known to be fairly funny with some of his one-liners at times. He's definitely got that Gemini quick wit. It's detail-oriented, which is kind of odd with Trump. We don't really see that come out much, although if you watch his speeches, he will occasionally just pull out random factoids on things. So we do see that a little bit. Geminis are naturally curious, and I do tend to think Trump's a curious person in a way, but again, it's more curious towards people. Curious towards what? The 11th house. He's curious towards the people. He's always asking people questions. Gemini is very easily persuaded at times because it's always looking for the best option, the best way to do something. Because again, it's unstable. And so it wants to find stability. So if there's a better way to do something, well, do that instead. And that's why Geminis can be so, I don't want to say flighty, but that's why they can be so indecisive at times or willing to change their mind. Kind of seem a little duplicitous. It's because they're always keeping their options open. And we see this with Trump, right? We're going to put in tariffs. Oh, that didn't work. Okay, we'll extend it 90 days, right? This is the way he operates. It's this very Gemini, right? I have an idea, we're gonna try it. I'm gonna listen to a bunch of other people's ideas, and we'll just go with those if they're better. So there's no constantness to this sense of kind of desire or direction he's moving. It's always changing based on, adapting based on the current facts on the ground as he sees them. Now, being born on an eclipse has some pretty large implications. For one, people born on eclipses will typically see very impactful periods of their life coinciding with eclipses, which as we're beginning to move into eclipse season, I would expect if there's going to be anything major for Trump this year, it's going to be during this fall. Now, the eclipses for Trump right now are going to be in the Gemini Pisces axis, which deals with money a lot of the times, but some other stuff too. So it'll be interesting to watch for him. I don't know off the top of my head. I'd have to go look. I think the first one might be squaring his axes, but I'd have to double check. Now, the sun in opposition to moon is always kind of an interesting dynamic for people. Can be a bit tough to deal with because what you have is a sense of conscious personality, sense of identity in the sun that is in opposition. That is, it's an opposite, right? It's a polarity. With the moon, our subconscious, our internal desires, our emotional state. So emotionally, Trump wants to focus on the big picture. Relationally, the way he wants to relate to people, he wants to do it in a very Sagittarian way, which is not always. It's kind of more. I mean, both Gemini and Sagittarius are not super emotionally in tune with people. They tend to be a bit more pull back from people. They're more curious about people, especially in terms of what they can receive from them. Or in Sagittarius days, what they can teach them also, what they can do for them. And so it's not always a closeness to others. Sagittarius really wants to find the deeper meaning in things and wants to look at the broad picture. And it's very volatile, but more volatile from it sees something and then chases after it, whereas Gemini is more volatile in the kind of reactive sense. Kind of always adjusting based on its needs. So for Trump, though, this leads to a situation where on the one hand, he does want to talk to people and see different ideas and look at the details and the data of things, but at the same time, internally, he's always trying to think of the bigger picture. And it's hard to marry those two things. So, and especially because, again, the Sagittarius side is going to want to have fun, and it's Moon in the fifth house, right? Fifth house deals with pleasures, it deals with our creative aspects, deals with children. And so for Trump having the moon here, there's an emotional almost need and fulfillment to have fun, right? He's a guy who loves to golf. He's also, fifth house is going to deal with romance. He's a guy that's had a lot of romantic entanglements over his life. And with the south node here, it's going to kind of warp that a little bit. And since his Venus, planet of relationships, as well as his seventh house ruler are also in the 12th conjunct, it's going to, I would say, be that kind of combo mixed with this moon here in the fifth house, going to probably, and as we have seen over the course of his life, lead to a lot of, uh, let's just say, non-traditional relational issues. So, yeah, it's not quite good because Sagittarius is self-indulgent, right? With the moon here, that you can have a emotional need to self-indulge. And where does he do it? In the house of fun, basically. Fun, romance, kind of, again, his creative passions. So for Trump, that is going to be a big issue in terms of things he has to be careful of and cautious of. Now, Trump's speaking style is one that people love to make fun of it, meme it, imitate it, obviously as a humorous tool, because it's such a kind of odd style. You think he almost kind of in a lot of ways sounds uneducated at times. And so why does he have such a bizarre speaking style, and why is he so big on, quote, the art of the deal? Well, let's look. Third house deals with communication. What do we see? He's got Jupiter here, but he's also got Chiron. So there's definitely a wounding, some kind of issue in terms of speech. Could have been speech impediment when he was younger. I don't know that. Could have been a learning disability. That would actually make some sense. But on top of that, he's got Neptune. And Neptune clouds. It deceives. It doesn't make clear. And it's squaring his Mercury, the planet of communication and intellect. And so what you get with both Neptune in the third and Neptune square Mercury is you get somebody whose ability to communicate is not perceived clearly, right? And this, I think, is so abundantly obvious when people watch him talk, because the people who are his supporters only see the good in what he's saying, or look past the kind of idiotic things he says. And the people who are his enemies, they can't see the good in what he says, right? And this is that lack of clarity. And now he doesn't help himself. He definitely does not speak in a clear, concise way. In addition, he's got Jupiter here, so there's an expansive quality of speaking in broad terms. That kind of harkens back to his moon over here, right? The way he wants to relate is in the big picture, and in Jupiter's about big things, large things. And so Trump's always trying to talk in broad statements, generalities. He tends to exaggerate. That's another quality of Jupiter in the third. And again, it's conjunct Chiron, so that's why it's a bit more awkward. Why it's an exaggeration, not a I'm going to tell you about the big picture. And yeah, it's kind of an awkward issue that he has to deal with in terms of trying to accomplish his goals. Now, one thing, Trump has been known, or has been called Teflon Don. He seems to kind of get out of any pickle, legal or otherwise. And why is that? Well, he's got Jupiter conjunct Uranus, and I think this is kind of really one of the key things keeping him honestly moving through thick and thin. I do think Mars on the ascendant helps a lot too, because Mars on the ascendant is going to be somebody who's got a pretty strong ability to just plow through, especially Mars and Leo. Mars and Leo is an energizer bunny. It just goes, 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 goes. It's super high energy. And I think Trump generally, we see this, I think now that he's getting older, he's slowing down for sure. But in his younger years, almost certainly, he was the kind of guy that just seemingly limitless energy. And that's just Mars and Leo generally. So especially if it's ruled by a decent sun, which I think his is decent. Now his Jupiter Uranus though, it's going to give him an impulsiveness, right? There's an impulsiveness, a uniqueness to the way he speaks. Again, it's going back to communication a little bit, but it's an ability to connect, right? This Jupiter here is really going to connect with what people in the 11th house. So there's a strong connection here that's very easy for him. Now, the difficult parts of this chart for Trump is going to be this stuff here in the 12th. He's got Venus and Saturn conjunct. That's kind of a tough love, more serious approach to traditional thing, but it's in the 12th, so it's almost like he doesn't understand traditional relationships, would be the way I'd kind of look at that. And it's something he'd have to figure out. And I think as he's gotten older, maybe he has, maybe he hasn't. I don't really follow his relationships too strongly, but yeah, it's kind of a tough dynamic, and it's a Saturn that's in exile in Cancer. It's a weak Saturn. Saturn's our ability to, it's our limitations, right? It's our boundaries. And so when you have it in the 12th, you get somebody that has a hard time with setting boundaries, with limiting themselves. And when he's already got a Sagittarius moon, that's going to lead to somebody who's impulsive and a bit excessive, overindulgent, with no real restraint on how to, you know, get rid of those things, to hold those things back. And again, Saturn rules his 7th house. And so it's going to be a lack of restraint in relationships. And that's not to say he can't learn those things or figure those things out, but that's where he will tend to struggle almost certainly. And what have we seen? Yeah, he's had a lot of issues with women over the course of his life. Mercury is also in the 12th house, again, speech, intellect. That has been an issue for him. All right. And what is it that Mercury rules? The 11th house, his community, his followers. Yeah, he's had some kind of issues with his followers, I think, where he's really beholden to them to an extent that he's willing to do things to simply maintain that sense of popularity, even at his own detriment. Things that he probably should not do. He's willing to do because it'll keep him popular. Right, so that's one way to look at it. And then also money. Trump, over the course of his life, has actually had a lot of ups and downs in regards to money. He's obviously a wealthy individual, inherited a decent amount of real estate and wealth from his father, and then had a lot of business ventures. But man, he's had a huge amount of both success and failures, and it's been all over the place. He's obviously, over the last several years, had several legal issues he's been dealing with. Big money stuff. So for him, the money is also an issue that he's constantly had to contend with. Where again, the second house, when you've got the second house ruler in the 12th, there's a lot of times a concern, a fear of money issues, a constant kind of, I don't want to say bleeding out, but it's a struggle. It's not easy because this is not something that comes naturally. On the 12th, that's something that's very subconscious, something that's very hidden, and it tends to be an undoing when we don't understand it correctly. So for Trump, that would be something I would have definitely recommended, is he learn to manage his money properly. Because if you look at it again, if you look at his course of his life, he's had a ton of success, ton of failures, and his failures have oftentimes really pulled away from his monetary successes. So. Yeah, but as far as him being a leader, though, is he a good leader? Or I don't want to say a good leader. Is he a capable leader? And I would say yes. Leos are typically good leaders. He's got Pluto in the first house, the planet of power. It's unaspected, so it's not doing any damage necessarily. And Mars on the ascendant, again, that's somebody who's very ambitious, who's going to really take charge. I don't have it set on this chart, but he's got Regulus over here on the ascendant as well, the kind of the royal star of kings. So yes, just off of that alone, I would say he's a strong leader, and particularly because he's got a sun up here in the 11th, right? It's a king that's ruled by the people to an extent, right? He's a populist. And he's got the sun conjunct the North Node. North Node conjunct the Sun is going to give him almost a ravenous desire to fulfill his kind of dreams, to fulfill his kind of duty to the people, in a sense. Again, it goes back to one of his issues is going to be a need, compulsive need almost, to be popular and to do what is going to keep him, or like keep his followers and not lose them, even if it's a bad decision, even if it's detrimental. He's going to seemingly want to keep doing that, and that North Node conjunct the Sun is just going to exacerbate that a bit. Because he's born on this eclipse, and because the way the nodes are in his case, what is it that he needs to do over the course of his life? He needs to move away from what? Move away from the overindulgence and move towards a place of, hey, I need to lead. I need to be a leader of the community. I need to be a leader of people, right? I think in some ways we've kind of seen this, his move away from entertainment, from real estate, from a lot of his kind of seedier relationships to now he's in politics, for better or for worse. And again, he's a person of big change. Eclipses signify change, right? Whenever we have eclipse seasons, the reason people tend to freak out about them a little bit is because eclipses deal with change. They're times of great change. They're pivot points. So when you have that in the chart, you are a person of change, a person who kind of forces change in the areas that you enter into. And we've seen this in some of his entertainment dealings. And obviously we're seeing it now in terms of politics, since he's now into politics. So yeah, is he a good leader? I don't know. That's subjective. Depends on what you desire as far as what he's doing or not doing. Good is always going to be subjective. Is he capable? Absolutely. Does he have some serious things he has to be concerned about? Absolutely. Because again, his main flaw, in my opinion, in terms of his leadership capability, besides kind of the just general Mars on the ascendant, harsh, heavy-handed nature to things, is this Gemini 11th house that's going to want to appease and shift directions frequently for whatever seems like the best option in the moment, right? And that's where I think if he's not careful, it's really going to trip him up in the wrong way, in a bad way. So he has to be very cautious of that. So that is the birth chart for Donald Trump. I hope you enjoyed.